Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another SAT Solved Live. I'll be solving a reading test and showing you my live decision making before. Uh, on on questions that I normally wouldn't have ever seen before, today I'll be going over the digital SAT practice test number 9 on the Blue Book app. The one weird quirk with today's practice test is that I actually have seen these questions before because practice test 9 is a recycle of a bunch of previous questions. However, there are a couple questions that are totally new to me, so I will make sure to specifically mention those ones out when I see them. Sometimes I may or may not remember, so I will try my best to let you know which questions are totally new to me. All the other ones, they're going to be kind of I'm going to be kind of acting out what it was like when I was first solving them for the first time in my life. But if you're actually curious how I actually had to solve them for the first time in my life, you can see a lot of them in the Blue Book 2 and 3 streams. Okay, so this this stream hopefully will be helpful for anybody who is studying the Blue Book, studying for the SAT reading and writing using the Blue Book apps. But you guys are kind of the post 2025 ones, and you guys had to solve practice tests 4 through 10 instead of practice tests 1 through 6, right? So I'll just try my best to give you an accurate representation of what it's like, what my thought process is like when I'm seeing these questions, even though I have seen most of them before. All right. And the big thing that kind of makes this stream a little trickier for me because I've already seen these questions before and because I'm acting out what it's like to solve these questions is that I might have some weirdly, paradoxically, I actually might run out of time because what happens is I actually tend to explain myself too much when I've already seen a question before. So you'll see what it's like kind of when I put myself under time pressure, but I'm going to try to avoid sticking myself in a corner like that, like I did on the previous stream. If you are watching this as a live stream, welcome to the stream. Welcome Mushi to the chat. Ask me any questions that you have in the chat. I can chat whenever I have some time. I won't be able to answer your questions right away, at least not in detail, but I will review I will review the chat during the break between the modules and after the 2 modules are over. If you are watching this video as a replay, this is not a live stream for you. You're watching it after the fact, then I encourage you to look at my video descriptions down here. You'll get some keyboard shortcuts for slowing down or speeding up or skipping chapters in this video. Okay, so with those big introductory pieces out of the way, let me just quickly get set up. And I do see a comment from Mushi, so let me reply to you as I get set up. Would I recommend going over the question bank questions to study? Yeah, but they basically come out in Khan Academy, so if you haven't done Khan Academy, I think that's the way to do it. And then you can go over the question bank questions afterwards to do any additional review. Be aware that the question bank questions do overlap with the practice tests, so you need to hit that checkbox to exclude the Blue Book practice test questions if you don't want to see the Blue Book practice test questions. Okay, so with that, let's get into the first. Oops, wrong screen. I'm not showing you the right screen, and for some reason my iPad is not showing up, so let me fix that up. All right, so just waiting for my iPad to show up. Okay, it is showing up now. I'm going to get into module 1 of the reading and writing section. Here we go. 32 minutes. Here we go. First question. We have struggled to pinpoint causes for hiccups, which happen when the thing contracts. Uncontrollable. So contracts uncontrollably. Uncontrollably is my prediction, so involuntarily is uncontrollable. We move on. Ophelia Zepeda's contributions are blank. She has many contributions, and they're kind of diverse, I guess. So extensive. Extensive is basically my prediction. Let's move on. Number 3, some researchers believe that the genes enable groundhogs to hibernate through the winter by slowing and lowering the temperature. These genes may also be present. Oh, yet they also have no effect. So dormant is what dormant is exactly what I was predicting. That was a perfect prediction. Here we go. Number 4. Science fiction was dominated mostly by white male, but here Octavia Butler came and she doesn't view the genre as unbreakable, right? She broke into it, so she's not unbreakable to approach, to enter. Impenetrable is the correct answer. I don't need to check the other answer choices because that is exactly. Oh my God, the screen got broke again. What the heck just happened? Thanks for mentioning that. Pausing. Okay, I'm right now at 30 minutes and I'm gonna save and exit on my thing to save the timer. But that, I don't know what's going on. This it must be the cable because I didn't used to have problems until very recently. So the cable must be messing up the screen. Okay, this is a very new problem for me, so I apologize for not having a solution to this. This is just it's kind of just annoying that I even am. Okay, so well, it's working now, but I had to leave. Hopefully, the black screen wasn't black for too long, but yeah, I'd have to go back and see what just happened. I don't even know how much I missed there. So sorry about that. I'm going to resume practice test 9. Here we go. All right. So I've just finished all of the word and context questions, and I basically just predicted all my answers. So, and they weren't particularly hard to predict. All the evidence was right there in the passage. So here we go. Number 5. Oral histories, whether they consist of interviews or recordings, okay, can be rich. Coretta Brown relied on interviews, and by doing so, she gained a rich view. Okay, so this is just support, more specific support for that initial claim. So it benefited. Benefited from. Yeah. I guess this is the only real answer choice. So it has to be dog. It's actually easier than my prediction. That answer choice was more literal than my prediction was. Okay, number, I think 6. I think we're on 6 right now. Martha is employed by Miss Pine as a maid. She is sitting by the window watching in her best dress. Wait, Miss Pine is the employer. And Martha, okay, so Martha's lady is Miss Pine. Okay. So she's sitting by the window. She doesn't go out much. It's time for the carriage. A carriage is coming out to her, like a wagon. Martha was just coming in, okay, the maid. And it was a bright, cool evening in June. Golden robins, apple trees, beautiful old house. And then there's going to be a guest. And the guest is probably not Martha because Martha is a maid, so it's probably a separate person. The main purpose of the text is to describe kind of the scene, I guess, of Miss Pine and Martha as they are waiting for the guest. Okay, there's not a contrast, so to depict the setting. Okay, so describe the scene as the two characters are waiting for the guest. There are 3 characters, and I remember stumbling on this the very first time that I solved this question, because today is not my first time. And the main reason I stumbled on this was because I wasn't keeping track of the number of characters. There's actually 3 characters, even though the blurb only sets up 2 of them. Okay. All right, so here's the next one. George Bernard Shaw's 1912 Pygmalion. Okay, we have Henry, mother's friends. I'm serious, Henry. You offend all my friends. Oh, it's my first time seeing this, I think. They stop coming. Nonsense. I know I can't small talk, but they don't mind. Oh, don't they? Small talk. What about your large talk? Really, dear? You mustn't stay. You talk too much is kind of the implication. The main purpose of the text is to depict a mother who is trying to get her son to leave. Oh, wow, that's exactly it. Yep. Um, I mean, that was my prediction, and that was actually the first time I ever saw that question. In response to concerns that some financial crises were exacerbated by misunderstanding of the risks with, cards, loans, and other financial products, policymakers have instituted risk disclosure requirements. Okay, so like terms and services, but they only had a small and short-lived effect. Obviously, such effects, nevertheless, may be worth pursuing since it's so easy. So this is a reason. It's a reason for a counterposition against this finding. Okay, so it's kind of like there's like multiple jukes in that. That makes this a little harder. By the way, first time ever seeing this passage. Function underlying portion. It's a reason to support. It's a reason to support a policy, even though it may not be that effective. Ooh, opposite. Nope. Okay, I need to not dismiss. Oh yeah, this is what I was predicting. I don't know. I kind of moved on from A because I thought it wasn't what I was predicting, but this is what I was predicting, so I'm gonna move on. So I didn't do a quick read. I didn't really do a slow read of B, C, and D. I was just scanning for my prediction, and I'm done. Number 9, 1901, the marrow of tradition. Mrs. Ochiltree was strong. Her comments upon her acquaintances, present or absent, were marked by They were frank. They were startlingly frank. Um, so this caused her to be avoided. People don't like how honest she is, and she actually exults in this character. She loves herself. Okay, there we go. Her sort of aggressively honest self. What is true about her acquaintances, which is not the question I was expecting, but her acquaintances, what is true about the acquaintances is that they are startled and avoiding Mrs. Ochiltree. So they are startled. There we go. Startled and avoiding Ochiltree. Okay, that is number 9. Number 10, Mrs. Spring Fragrance is an immigrant in Seattle. Okay, Spring Fragrance is a name, which is kind of hard to get around, but anyway, SF is a name, lives in Seattle, traveling California, and she's talking to her husband and friend, but husband and friend is the same person. She demonstrates her concern for what's happening at her home in Seattle while she's away. So her husband's at home in Seattle and she's gone and she's concerned. So the concern is, hey, don't burn the house down. Or, make sure that the house is not over flooding, or I don't know, something like that, right? So my honorable cousin, okay, I'm supposed to be concerned about what's happening at the house. Forget not to take care of the cat, the birds, the flowers. Don't eat too quickly. Don't fan too vigorously. The weather is warming. I'm just double checking D, but yes. Only C has concern, and the other ones don't even have concerns at all. So this is actually kind of easier than I was expecting. It could have been a lot harder. But none of the other, like, you could have theoretically had a concern for a non-house related thing as one of the other answer choices, but only one of them had a concern at all. A student is examining a long, challenging poem. Initially, it was published without notes. Then later, it was published again with only that poem and also notes. Okay, so it's like a very famous poem or like a very successful poem. The student asserts that the notes were included in the republication as a marketing device. All right, because we're trying to say hey, you should buy. Yeah, because, well, I don't know how to explain this, but basically when you have notes, like by a good scholar, then that improves the experience of reading that poem, especially if it's a hard poem, a long, challenging poem. So, what statement would support the claim of the student, which is that it's primarily a marketing device? Basically, the notes were emphasized in marketing materials and marketing collateral, so to speak, and it led to more sales or something like that. Text of the poem is not no. Requested notes to make the book attractive to readers. Marketing, who already had a copy of the poem in a journal issue. That's probably correct. No, yeah. That's the only one that has anything to do with marketing, so we move on. Okay. Metal content of plants with and without K exposure, with and without K, and metal content. So if you don't have K, then you're just gonna have a lot of metal apparently. And this is for zinc and iron. Oh, and K is very effective at dropping the iron. So compared to just the zinc. Okay, so that's my initial pre-prediction. Here we go to the passage. Many plants lose their leaf color when they have K. Oh, okay, so there's actually a cost to that, by the way. If the plant's response to K involves altering their uptake of metal, I see. Then half of the one, there are two groups of seedlings, and half were a control group. And they measured the content 5 days after germination, so this is 5 days afterwards. So they found that the hypothesis, which we are supporting, the hypothesis is that it involves altering the uptake of metal. It actually decreases the uptake of metal, of both zinc and iron. Both. So the experimental plants had less iron. What? I guess that's just zinc. But this is the only one that compares controls versus experimental, right? Man, that's kind of annoying. This has to be correct, but now I have to double check A, B, and D. A is just false, or A is just irrelevant. B, irrelevant. Oh, wait. Yeah. Yeah, that's correct. Wow, that took me a long time. That took me way too long because I don't know why I didn't see D first. Okay, there we go. So D is correct. And also, this is backwards, so what the hell? I can't believe I let myself waste time like that. Okay, it's definitely D, and wow. It's funny because I've even seen that question before, but whatever. D is correct, and that's the one that matched my prediction. There are 5 gas planets recently discovered. Okay, they're all called TOI something something something, and there's a bunch of data. And the only outlier that I see right now is, I guess this one's super large, super massive. I mean, but then nothing else is very. Yeah, I don't see any trends honestly, so I'm just gonna move on. This is just overwhelming to actually try to predict anything on. Okay, so hot Jupiters are gas planets that have a mass of at least 0.2 Jupiters, 0.25 Jupiters, which is all 5 of them. All 5 of them are hot Jupiters. Okay, and an orbital period of less than 10 days. Where is that? Less than 10 days. Oh no, one of them is not a hot Jupiter. Okay. While warm Jupiters have the same mass, but okay, so the warm Jupiter is the 1478b, this one. The zooming is super janky right now on this app, but the 1478b is the only warm Jupiter. 4 are hot, 1 is warm. Oh, duh. So then just say 1478b is the only one with greater than 10 orbital period, but all of them are above 0.25. So all are above 0.25. 1478b, this is the only one that mentions 1478b directly, so this has to be the right answer. I'm seeing it, and that is correct. Exactly my prediction. Okay, moving on. Archaeologist CK and they excavated QM, ruled on her own, the first female pharaoh. Okay, QM's tomb has a tablet with writing, treasury, and other central offices. So even if she's not a pharaoh, this supports the idea that she likely had a lot of responsibility. Yep, that is A. Okay. By the way, that was my first time ever seeing that question. The widespread use of social media enables linguists to study why changes in language usage in real time. Okay, got it. I think this is the first time I've ever seen this passage too. A notable recent example is the proliferation of Hmong among Bahasa Indonesia. Okay, so it recently got popular, that word, that prefix. Hmong originates as a tag for cats, okay? And then they put it on Hmong's sedi for sad, cat sad, okay? Then it moved into spoken Indonesia, and they're seeing it in other languages, suggesting that social media, which, by the way, it's over here, it's a tag. It starts as a tag. Social media can influence spoken language, not just in Indonesia, and not just for Bahasa Indonesia, but for any other language as well. So that's my prediction. Also, this is my first time seeing this passage. Okay, that is dog. I probably should explain, does not merely register changes. That's just referring to the first sentence. Okay, that's the first half of answer choice D is just referring back to the first sentence, which I remembered in my head when I was answering that. But even though that wasn't part of my prediction. All right, next question. For thousands of years, this is grammar, so I don't need to predict. People in the Americas have used the bottle gourd to do these things. Got it. Lucia, if these plants were grown in alkaline soil, alongside grasses that ate it, could the blueberries thrive? Question mark. Mikhail was determined to find out. That is correct. Timao counters this effect, ensuring that proteins retain their original configurations. Timao is found in, has to be a period, high concentration in the cells of deepest dwelling fish. Got it. Mathematicians, sometimes in conjunction with other mathematicians, is credited with proving this one thing. This one guy is credited. Got it. Jetties are often constructed to protect coastlines. Jetties can sometimes have the opposite effect, though. However, jetties can sometimes have the opposite effect. Can lead to, okay, that's a new sentence. 21. Archaeologist Subrun SB explains why the burial site was the tomb of a king. First, this is a logical transition. The gold artifacts inside the ship suggested that the dude was wealthy, respected, and also there was a lot of effort involved. Also, so furthermore. Second, second obviously, because the word first was part of that passage. Earth's auroras result from the sun's activity. Broadly speaking, so specifically, the sun releases charged particles. Then these, okay. Yeah, so specifically. Okay, that's good. That was a general phenomenon, and then the specifics of that phenomenon. The coastal Virginia offshore wind project is anticipated to generate lots of energy. As the name indicates, the project consists of wind turbines. In the Virginia, off the Virginia coast. Also, I guess this is just the second fact, right? There's one fact and then another fact. Okay, this is weird. To be exact, wait, what? Hang on. Am I missing something? The coastal Virginia offshore wind project is anticipated to do lots of work. As the name indicates, the project consists of wind turbines, got it, off the Virginia coast, got it. Specifically, it calls for, yeah, I guess this is just a more specific number for the previous sentence and how far off the coast. So specifically, so yeah, it's to be exact, got it. All right, I didn't really fully process the relationship between those two sentences. And actually, it turns out this was the first time I've seen that passage ever. So yeah, it just took me a while to process that. A student has taken the following notes. Moon orbiting planet comes close to the planet. Type of forces cause the moon to break apart. What? If a moon orbiting a planet, tidal forces can cause the moon to break apart. Tidal forces on the planet? Okay, sure. Saturn was once Chrysalis. Chrysalis would have come very close to Saturn, would have been broken apart by tidal forces. Okay, tidal forces presumably on the moon, probably. Yeah, probably on the moon itself. And then it caused the rings. Oh, that's kind of cool. All right, recount the sequence of events proposed by researchers. So basically, 160 million years ago, Chrysalis gets close to Saturn, breaks apart, turns into these beautiful rings. Okay, that is C. A student has taken the following notes. Pinnipeds, seals, sea lions, walruses live in and around the water, and they're from land-dwelling carnivores. And they found a fossil with 4 legs, got it. Web toes, which was not mentioned before, and skull and teeth of a seal, okay. Transitional fossil, okay. Early stage in the okay, so this is like an early seal. Got it. So fossil significance is it's a transitional fossil that illustrates an early stage in the evolution of pinnipeds. Okay, this is not the emphasis of the fossil significance because it just doesn't emphasize why it's significant, but this does. And this is what I was predicting basically. Although it's kind of weird that the answer choice just says the rare fossil, but like it just refers to something without an antecedent, so that's kind of annoying. But yeah, like the rare fossil found by Natalia R. Right? It should really mention that information, right? Whatever. 26. Scripps National Spelling Bee U.S. based spelling competition. How much time do I have? 9 minutes. It's a lot of time. Diverse linguistic origins. Guerdon comes from Anglo-French. Laodicean comes from ancient Greek. 1 year apart from each other, 2 different winners. And we're talking about the origins of the 2 words. So we're talking about the French, the Anglo-French, and the Greek. Guerdon versus Laodicean. Guerdon is Anglo-French, while Laodicean is ancient Greek. I do not need to check the other ones because that's literally my prediction. And I guess I'm just quickly double checking to see if the 2 words come out anywhere else, but that has to be the correct answer. 27. Similarity between the 2 paintings. So there are 2 paintings. In 1851, E.L. painted WCD, huge. In 2019, KM painted WBP, huge, although similarly huge, and inspired by Lutz, and involves a boat, people in a boat. Okay. So similarity is huge and people in boats. They're both huge. Correct. That's not. That doesn't emphasize the similarity there. That actually takes the similarity and makes it sound like a contrast in dog. All right, so that's 27. I don't need to go back to the other questions because I'm pretty happy with my answer choices there. There were a couple new questions that I've never seen before. All the other questions that I have seen before. I've just pretended I didn't see it before and I kind of worked with it. Hopefully that was still helpful for you to see my thought process when I'm solving these kinds of things, when I'm solving these questions. All right, it looks like we have no other questions in chat, so I'm just going to move forward and just proceed with the solving of the test. But if this video is, if you're watching this far, then I'm guessing the video is pretty helpful for you. Please hit that like button just to help me out and to help anyone else out find who might be needing some YouTube help for their SAT. All right, let's go into module 2. And again, I'm going to say this one more time. You are welcome to just chat during the stream. I may not respond to you during the stream, during the solving, but I will be able to scoop up those questions at the very end. Within baleen whale species, some of these whales develop an accessory spleen. It's not a normal spleen. Given the formation, the accessories formation's greater prevalence among whales to make deeper dives, we actually think that the role isn't functionless. Rather, it might help with diving. So it's not functionless. Oh, I remember this. Latent is such an annoying word for functionless, but it's the only one that works out of these 4, so you got to choose it. Annoying word for that. Shokonoko was situated southeast of Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Aztec Empire. Shokonoko's location is something hundreds of kilometers away. Long overland journey. So far. Peripheral is the only one that works with far. The other 3 do not work with far. Even if you don't know peripheral, you should be able to eliminate the other ones that are not the same as the prediction of far. All right, number 3. GG announced that a sound captured by the blah was evidence of gravitational waves. Skeptics said you couldn't detect gravitational waves. Statistical analysis helped preclude the claims of the event's falseness. Oh, okay, preclude. Okay, so it's a double negative here because it is a signal with a lot of confidence. Falseness. Ambiguity, inconspicuous. I guess ambiguity is the only one that works. By the way, this is the first time I've ever seen this question. Yeah. But, probability is the opposite. Discretion is off topic. Inconspicuousness is, you can't preclude the inconspicuousness of the event. That doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, ambiguity. Wow, that's a hard one. Number 4. Political blogs with obvious ideologies became integral in the early 2000s. While some liked this, because of transparency, less welcoming observers, less laudatory observers countered that such tendency. Okay, yeah. Less warm, less sanguine. Okay, wow. That's the only one that works, but hard words, dude. I predicted this when I first solved Blue Book's practice 1, 2, 3, 4, when there were only 4 practice tests back 2 years ago. I knew that they were going to have to do more hard vocabulary, and now more hard vocabularies, like harder and harder vocabulary is coming out. All right, so the importance of vocabulary is going up. Here we go. Charlotte Fortin Grimke's 1888 poem at Newport. Oh, deep delight to watch the delighted waves leap delightedly upon the rugged rocks, ever repulsed, pushed back, yet ever pushing on, filled with a life that will not know defeat. Okay, to see the sky and sea. So the waves are pushing forward, and this is just characterizing the waves as pushing beyond into the distant snowy state, blah, 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 all that other stuff. So we're characterizing the waves as relentless and enduring. And relentless and enduring basically is like not no defeat, so that makes sense. Just double checking, but yep, we're characterizing the waves. That's my prediction. Let's move on. Number 6. Ecologists have long wondered how thousands of microscopic species, phytoplankton species, can live together on surfaces when they have limited resources. According to conventional wisdom, one of these species should emerge. So why do they coexist? We haven't found a satisfactory explanation. Now, Michael Barenfeld have connected the diversity of these species to their tiny size. Now we have an explanation. The explanation is their size. Because they're so tiny, they are far. Because they're far, they're not. And plus, because they're tiny, water is dense. So they don't actually even interact with each other much. So they're not really competing much. So the problem before is that we thought they would have to compete and one would have to win, but it turns out actually they're so small they don't really compete at all. Your premise is wrong. So B and colleagues, Barenfeld and colleagues would say that the conventional wisdom is based on a wrong premise, which is that they are competing. Actually, they're too small to even compete in the first place. Misconception about competing. Actually, that's basically my prediction. So I just double check B, C, and D. Yep. Yep. It's the only one that has anything to do with their smallness and the initial assumption being wrong. For many years, the only evidence of ME, which are these arthropods known as sea scorpions and related to arachnids and horseshoe crabs. Okay, so like creepy crawly things, MEs, came from 4 species. We only had fossil evidence of 4 species from L, from the Laurussia. In a discovery that expands our understanding of the range of the M's, which are probably MEs, okay, we have identified the fossilized remains of a 5th dude 400 million years ago, which, just comes out of nowhere, by the way, that year, on a different paleocontinent called Gondwana. Okay, we have a 5th ME. And so why was the discovery of the TX significant? Because it is expanding our understanding of the geographical range of the MEs. Now we know that it can be maybe in Gondwana. Gondwana. Nope. Outside of Laurussia, which equals Gondwana, because the first 4 were only in Laurussia. Yeah. All right, number 8. Here we go. Poetry in classical Nahuatl relies on difrasismo, a parallel noun construction for a single metaphor. For example, in Quatli in Osedlotl, the eagle, the jaguar, signifies warrior. It's a parallel noun. It's a double noun, but it's a double noun that leads up to. Oh, that's fucking cool. Actually, that's like a synecdoche. It's like a additive synecdoche. That's kind of cool. The device's function is both formal, because it provides structure, and ritual, because of the relation between the 2 nouns, and they can be tenuous. Such that they're only intelligible if you understand the culture itself. Okay, cool. Most strongly supported by the text is we don't know why an eagle and a jaguar together would mean warrior, so you have to understand the culture of the Aztecs, their ceremonial culture. Their ritual and ceremonial are the same idea here. So you have to understand their ritual meanings in order to understand their actual figurative and literal meanings. Okay, got it. Nope. No, that's the opposite. can be resolved when considered in the proper ritual context. You know, that is my prediction. That was my first time seeing that question ever, and I predicted it, and I'm moving on. I did not closely check B or D. Actually, I didn't even read D at all. Ratio of manganese to calcium in samples from A to M. Hang on, what? A is the triangle, M is the square. Manganese to calcium. So manganese goes high 4 years before the present and goes low 10 years. Wait, this is backwards, which is. What? Why is the 2 not on this side? Why is it? Oh my god, that's so annoying. So this is backwards in time, which is freaking annoying, which. Hang on, let me just double check this. Okay. So anyway, 2,000 years before the present and 4,000 years before the present, manganese is pretty high. But a long time ago, from 10,000 years before the present to 20,000 years before the present, manganese is not that much higher than calcium. Okay, fine. But the annoying thing and the stupid trick that the College Board is using on you is making sure that you know how to see the. Did you check the x-axis? Is basically what this stupid table is about. This graph is about. The population of LP declined about 9,000 years ago in the sea and 11,000 years ago near the Mauritanian coast. Now, what the heck? Dude, this zoom is awful. Okay. So Alboran Sea is 9,000 years ago. That is when manganese was shooting up. Okay. And 11,000 years on the 11,000 years when it was dropping, weirdly. Huh. Oh, on the Mauritanian coast, which is when it was the same, which is confusing as hell. Okay. Yeah, I spent a lot of time on that first sentence and just the graph itself, but that's just because this graph is messing me up because it's written backwards. Using the ratio of M to C, which inversely correlates with oxygenation. Hang on. So the higher the M to C is, the lower the oxygenation is. So did oxygenation decline the L pertusa? And it may have been important in Alboran, but not Mauritanian coast. That makes perfect sense because the Mauritanian coast, it declined in 11,000 years ago, but 11,000 years ago, there was no change in the ratio. However, in the Alboran Sea, there was 9,000 years ago, there was a huge spike, which was increasing the ratio, which decreases oxygenation. Okay. Wow, that's painful. Okay. I must have taken almost 2 minutes, almost a minute and a half, just maybe 2 minutes, just figuring that out. Substantial increase in oxygenation in Alboran Sea corresponded with the local decline in L pertusa. Opposite is the wrong word because because that doesn't happen. L pertusa in Alboran Sea with a local decline in oxygenation because the manganese is going up, so it declines. That's correct. But L pertusa declined during a period of little change, and that is my prediction. Wow, that is my prediction. That's exactly what I was predicting. That's Mauritanian coast. That is correct. And that's the Alboran Sea. That's correct. So all parts of this is correct. I can move on. I mean, I could check C and D, but B is so absolutely correct that I can move on. Number 10, here we go. Dacker-Keltner and JH can enable us to feel connection and altruism. DK plus other dudes claims evidence. Tall trees, which is awe. Okay, looking at trees equals awe versus non-trees, which is not awe. Okay, so that's experiment group and control group. And then there's pens, and then we have altruism. So, okay, basically, if you look at trees, you should be helping with the pens. You should be altruistic. Which finding would support the claim? The claim, which is that it increases altruism. If you look at trees, picked up more pens. Oh, that is exactly what I predicted, and it's correct. It's answer choice A, so I would move on. If you're nervous about moving on from an answer choice after you completely predict it, then just bookmark it and come back to it. It's fine. I'm not going to do it, though, because I know that was exactly my prediction. I was very confident in my prediction. Power conversion efficiency of the lowest performing and the highest performing, the worst and the best and the worst of the spin-coated and the spray-coated ETLs. So the gray one is spray, and the best and the worst is pretty high. And the black one is spin, and the best and the worst is pretty low. So spray is better, is more efficient than spin. PSC convert light into electricity more efficiently than earlier kinds of... What's PSC? It's not even mentioned here. Okay. Solar cells, manufacturing advances than commercial. One limitation of the cells has to do with their ETL, through which absorbed electrons must pass. Okay. Often the ETL is applied through spin, which is the bad one. But such ETLs are inefficient. Okay, that is exactly what I was thinking. So we tried a spray, and the ETL of the... And they concluded that the spray is promising for efficiency because the spray, even the worst spray is more than 15%, whereas the best spin is less than 14%. So even the worst, so basically spray wins, right? Nope. The worst spray had a higher conversion efficiency than the best spin. Let me just double check spray. Yeah, spray and spin. So that is B, and that is my prediction. So I don't really need to check C or D because you can't be more correct than that one. Okay, so here we go. Political scientists. Cortez, that's a good question, and I'll come back to you at the end of this module. Political scientists who favor the traditional view claim that voting doesn't change your attitude towards the candidates. Okay, so you know how in like physics/philosophy we talk about how observing the incident changes the incident itself? Maybe you don't know. It's part of like modern physics. Here it's the same idea. The act of voting actually changes our feelings. Focusing on each election for 20 years, there are people who just became old enough to vote, and half of them voted. And there are people who are unable to vote, and none of them voted. And we compared the voters versus the 50% voters and the non-voters, 2 years, and the attitudes were compared after a time. So we're trying to predict this, we're trying to weaken this claim. Okay, there we go. We're trying to weaken the claim that voting does not change the attitude. Therefore, voting does change the attitude. Therefore, the voting group, the group that is old enough to vote, which is a proxy for the voters, the voting group had a different attitude than the non-voting group. No. The voting group showed a change in their attitude, whereas the non-voting group didn't show a change in their attitude. And these two groups are similar in age, which is just it's just a matter of social science, like experiment construction. Basically, we're trying to reduce the likelihood that their age is a factor. Okay, got it. So um, the voting group has to show a change in their attitude. No, we're not enough to vote. Positive. No, that's opposite of what I want. Who voted held more polarized attitude towards the winning candidate than did the subjects who were not. Yeah, that sounds like yes, yes, yes. That's a change. Let me just double check. 2 years who voted. No, there's just clumping them together. Yep. So that's C. Okay, 13. Here we go. How much time? We have 12 minutes left. I'm taking too much time. Among social animals that care for their young, newborns have an attraction to face thingies. Faces. Okay. So this Elizabetta used EV used an image of three black dots in the shape of eyes and nose or mouth to test on tortoises, which is not a chicken, monkey, or humans. Now these tortoises, they live alone and they don't do parental care. But weirdly, they found a preference for the image, so maybe the innate attraction to faces has nothing to do with socializing, right? Uh, should not assume that face liking, that enjoyment of faces, is anything to do with socializing. That is correct. That is my prediction. I'm going to move on. 14. With 11 minutes left, I'm very behind. In a study of the braininess of the CI, we failed to control for the physical difficulty of the tasks. So the cognitive abilities for low physical difficulty were judged by the same criteria as monkeys who were given physically demanding problems, like unscrewing. The results of the study, therefore, should be thrown out or filtered for just the easy ones or whatever, or filtered for just the hard ones, something like that. Could suggest that there are differences, even though okay. So basically, this is just saying the results are invalid, which is my prediction. I could double check B, C, and D are useful for identifying tasks. Nope. Wait, what? Other species? Nope. Reveal more about the. Nope. No. Yep. Throw it out. Throw it out. Okay, we're at the grammar. Here we go. Her 2014 novel, for instance, is a accomplished retelling of the story, while her 2019 novel, Gingerbread, with no commas, because it's just the title. I guess you could have double comma, but there is no double comma. So yeah, only C is doable. And we move on. Recently, EF used the compound, okay, used the chemical compound aluminum oxide to make a glassy solid. Okay, that is correct. Hopper's subsequent career would involve more than just, hang on. She was recruited by the U.S. military. Okay, her career, more than just solving equations, however. She would help usher the digital age, new independent clause. Okay, increased diversity is revitalizing economics. Cool. The trailblazing accomplishments of Golden attest plural, sorry. Accomplishments, plural, attest to the value of scholars. Okay. Recent pollen analyses have led researchers to propose that the now treeless islands were once wooded. This hypothesis suggests that certain trees survived without interruption. Oh, interesting. This hypothesis suggesting that certain trees cannot stand. Unless other explanations can first be ruled out. Wow. I almost got tricked on that one. Atoms in a synchrotron travel faster and faster until they reach a desired energy level. At that point, they are diverted. Okay. Compared to that of alumina glass, the atomic arrangement of silica glass is more dispersed, resulting in a disadvantage. They are far apart. That is correct. Most logical transition, let's go. Zooming back in to make predictions. With this installation, BS succeeds in creating a whimsical yet perplexing experience. Specifically, when they set foot inside the room, they are dazzled and confused. Okay. Indeed is the closest thing to my prediction. Indeed, they are dazzled. Yeah, that is correct. Economist EO's studies of communities, by the way, that previous one was totally new to me, have empirically demonstrated that common pool resources can be managed by people who use them, not through governments. Or as a result, it repudiates the tragedy of the commons, which is that people will overexploit a resource. In effect, I would say in effect personally, but yes, as such. Oh, okay, interesting. That's an interesting one. We haven't seen that in a while. Okay, or ever. I don't think I've ever seen that. And in fact, I think that might have been, I feel like that might have been my first time solving that. Okay, 24, here we go. Trying to find a similarity between the two books. In 2008, he published TOS, 15 short stories. And then in 2008, he published TFIC, which is 25 short stories. And they're both surreal. And the first one is suburban, where the second one is urban. And the similarity is they are surreal and short stories. Okay, cool. That is dog. Present the study and the conclusions. Here we go. Cat bone fragments in the ruins, 2013. 5,300 years old. And so we are studying these fragments that we found. Here's the results. Cats ate grain. Therefore, maybe they were domesticated cats 5,300 years ago. Okay, so the conclusions is an analysis of the cat bone fragments suggests that, yeah, that is perfect. That's exactly what I was thinking. We're trying to introduce the 1833 poetry collection. 1833 is by Celia Vicuña, published by Tanan Press, Precarious. Okay. That is the only information we have, so that is correct. Emphasize the aim of the research study. Okay, so the factors that affect clutch size, which is the number of eggs in a clutch, have been well studied in birds but not in lizards. So we want to... Okay, so the aim is to investigate the factors affecting lizard clutch size. Researchers want... Yes, that is exactly A. Can't be anything else because A is too correct. You can't be more correct than A. I'm just double checking B, C, and D though, just to be safe. Okay, I'm kind of zoning out, but I more or less am happy with that answer choice. Hopefully I didn't make any mistakes because it obviously changes the experience when I have seen like 80% or more of the questions before, because now I am pretending to see this for the first time in my life, and I'm just showing you what it's like to solve it using my strategy and using my brain. But yeah, obviously what happens then is because I've seen the questions before, I might have gotten a little bit lazy where, I don't do some additional process elimination. So it's actually possible that I got not a 54 out of 54, but I do feel confident at the very moment that I got 54 out of 54. Even though I didn't really execute my strategy like 100%, partly because I do remember the passage. I do remember the questions and the answers for some of them. So I am expecting to get an 800, 54 out of 54. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful for you guys just to see what happened. I'm going to actually show the score prediction. I predicted my score. I'm going to show you the score soon. Let me just submit this test first. And I probably need to make a comment on this one more time. Let me just make sure this is submitted so I can take my eye off of this real quick. Okay. So it is now submitted. I can briefly discuss the questions on today's practice test. So I think I've seen like 80% of those questions before. I think I remember maybe 40% of those questions, like the passage and the answers. So the other 40%, I had seen it before, but I didn't really remember everything. And then 20% of the questions were totally new to me. I've never seen them before. Something like that, right? Either way, I do feel like today's stream was an accurate representation of how my strategy looks and how it actually works. If you don't fully believe that a guy can actually predict the answers like I just did, just go and watch my Blue Book practice test 1, 2, and 3 streams, even though you're not going to be able to solve them yourself because it's not in the Blue Book app anymore. They took it off the Blue Book app. Just watch it if you really want to see, like, if you want to just check if I'm just bullshitting you or not, because I'm not. It's actually how I do it. Some of these questions that I've seen before, I struggled more on my first time solving it, but I didn't have enough time to remember how I struggled, so I couldn't really demonstrate the struggles themselves. But you're kind of just seeing a sort of idealized picture of what my strategy actually looks like. And you'll notice that in my strategy, using my techniques, I am pretty slow with reading the passage, okay? Because I take my time to make sure that I know what the passage and the graph, if there is one, is saying before I just go straight into the answer choices, and that makes me save a lot of time on process elimination. You probably have noticed that I don't really do process elimination more than like a handful of times throughout a given practice test. Okay, so that's I think the approach you should be taking if you're trying to aim for a very high score above 730. Okay, if you're aiming for something below 730, then it's kind of more debatable what strategies you should be using. Although long term, if you want to be a better reader and writer, and specifically a better reader, you should be practicing this strategy nevertheless. Okay, so with this little disclaimer out of the way, let's actually get into the score itself. So I'm gonna first log into my College Board account. I'm not gonna show you my screen when I'm logging in. I'm just gonna log in first, and then I'll share the screen. Okay. Okay, and now I'm sharing my screen. mypractice.collegeboard.org. We're loading practice test 9. And what did I get? I got 1,000, which is 800 and 200 on the math because math I did not solve. Reading and writing, I got 54 out of 54. Nothing incorrect. Obviously, this is slightly inflated / artificial because yes, it's true, I have seen some of these questions, many of these questions before, but I hope that my stream was at least a helpful resource in just imagining what it's like to solve a practice test for the first time. Because yes, I do slow down on those on the passage, and it's not like I memorized every single sentence of all these passages. I did have to reread them to figure out what was going on. If you have any questions, we can discuss them now. Right now, I see some questions from Cortez, so I'm gonna quickly answer those questions first. You really suck at boundary questions and time management in Module 2. The boundary questions take you way too much time. How can you improve your accuracy for boundary questions? It's actually probably, since I have these in front of me, might as well look at some of them. So let's actually find a boundaries question. So boundaries question. Okay. This is no, this is SVA, sorry. Okay, this is boundaries. So this is a harder one. Let me actually start with the easier one. So now, if you are actually just bad at what do you call it? At non-essential and essential modifiers, or restrictive and non-restrictive modifiers, then you just need to get better at these, and you just need to like practice like 100 of these questions, and just make it so that it's automatic, that you don't even need to think. When you watch me solve these boundaries questions, if it's specifically the restrictive versus non-restrictive modifiers questions, or essential versus non-essential modifiers, or whatever the heck they're going to call this. Let's see. The convention being tested is the use of punctuation around noun phrases. Okay, which in this case is a noun phrase, but it doesn't always have to be a noun phrase. But this is a restrictive. They use the word restrictive, a positive, right? Aluminum. What? The hell? They call that the appositive? Bros. Okay, I mean, all right, whatever. I mean, you could think about it that way, but the typical way of thinking about it is to think about the aluminum oxide as the actual, the subject, or in this case, it's the object. The Frankberg used aluminum oxide to do this other thing, right? Frankberg used aluminum oxide to do the other thing. No commas on either side of that, obviously, because that's just our subject, or sorry, that's our object. But then the chemical compound aluminum oxide, the chemical compound, that could be considered a title for the aluminum oxide. Okay, this is just describing what this is. Okay, the chemical compound aluminum oxide, the high school student Cortez Alt, right? Like that would just be your title. So you don't need commas for that title. Like if you did have a comma before that title, it would be used, comma, the title, the chemical compound, comma, aluminum oxide. But then with the word the, that makes it that really clashes with the concept of like a non-restrictive modifier there. So treat this as a title. Then you just get rid of all then you get rid of all the commas. You move on. And for this kind of boundaries question, you just need to practice like 100 of them until it becomes second nature. You don't need to. This is not intellectual. It's just get a lot of practice and you get used to it, right? Now this one is a little bit more intellectual, but again, now here the practice that you need to do is just finding independent clauses first and foremost, but also reading for the logic while identifying independent clauses at the same time. So that makes it a little bit more complex. So here's the logic. She was recruited to help with equations. Her later career would involve more than just equations, however. Notice what I just did? I replaced the though with however, because in my head, the however is the actual transition. So if you put the however here, you can actually put the however at the beginning of the sentence. It doesn't change the meaning. You could say, however, her later career would involve more than just equations. Or you could say, her later career would involve more than just equations. However, it's the same sentence. You can even put the however in the middle of the sentence. You could say, her later career, however, would involve more than just equations, right? What am I doing, though? Am I relying on the answer choices to tell me what to choose? No, I'm just constructing the sentences in my head, the correct version of the sentence in my head, right? Because I'm looking for independent clauses, which is right here. Up until equations, we do have an independent clause, right? And I'm supplying I'm supplying the meaning of that independent clause, right, based on what I'm actually reading in the previous sentence. That makes this pretty hard, right? You have to think about the logic. It's kind of like a logical transition question, right? Like these over here. These are logical transition questions. It's like a logical transition question, but also it's a grammar question. It's both at the same time. So that makes this a little harder. But what's the initial thing you're doing? You're always looking for independent clauses first. It would involve more than just the occasions, however. Specifically, she would help in the digital age as a pioneering computer programmer. That's a second independent clause. So I need to split that somehow. So I'm thinking of a period or maybe a colon, and both of those would work. But the reason C doesn't work is because C is, like it's putting the however on the wrong sentence. And it's putting it at this last sentence, which makes it sound like it's contrasting against this sentence, which is crazy. Plus, you're not allowed to use the though as a however at the beginning of a sentence. It's just a unique quirk. It's like a quirk of the word though. So you can't start a sentence with a though that means however. All right. But again, with this kind of thing, it's somewhat more intellectual, but you just need to get used to it. You just need to get used to specifically looking for independent clauses and applying the meaning on your own. And as long as you just practice that over and over and over again, you'll basically just be faster on those questions. And once you're faster on those questions, then you don't really have to waste too much time on those questions. You can, if you save like a total of like 1 minute, 1.5 minutes on those questions, then you can go back to some of the harder reading questions and spend that 1.5 minutes on, maybe like 2 other questions, or if it's like a really hard question, maybe 1 really hard question. Okay. So, consider the fact that, that those writing questions, specifically on boundaries, are very, very trainable. You just have to solve a lot of them. And once you train a bunch of them, you basically will stop thinking about them. It'll become second nature. All right, looks like there's no other questions at the moment. So I guess that could be the end of the stream. Let me just see what's on my mind at the moment. But if this video has been helpful for you, please hit the like button to let me know, first of all, that you're liking it, but also the YouTube algorithm, so that other people who are in the same position as you can find this video. If you would like similar videos in the future, consider subscribing to my channel. I'll be doing the practice test 10 stream tomorrow at the same time. So like 23 hours from now. And if you'd like to chat with me, I do a weekly members only stream. After a weekly open stream, I do it back to back, where I can give tips and answer any questions that you have on the SAT, on college, or on anything else on your mind. So you can look for details on how to support me as a channel member in the description down below. Thanks, guys, for watching. Glad you guys were here with me during this challenging period of solving practice test 9. I got my 800, so you too get yours. As always, keep on learning, keep on growing. Peace.